Welcome to another episode of Barman Saturdays. In this way, I take a look at Dragons, Metal Ages, the movie. And yeah, I know if you look for this movie online that mentions, it's Dragons 2, Metal Ages, the movie. But there's no 2 on this box, so I didn't feel like including it. Though I have to admit, there's not too many reviews of this movie online. I mean, there's basically one by Common Sense Media, then you got some customer reviews, and that's basically it. There's one YouTube review that's mostly a riff track setup because it basically spends its time, making fun of the film. It does offer some legitimate criticism, but nothing you probably couldn't have picked up on, by just watching the movie itself. So it doesn't really help you that much, unless you are looking at the review before you bought the film. But why would I do that? Well, if I'm gonna buy a movie like this at a Dollar Tree, I might as well watch it first, before I watch a review, right? I mean, that didn't happen with Caroline the Magic Potion. I watched Sable's review before I watched the movie, which, I suppose may help set me up more for watching such a bad movie and enjoying it for its awfulness. Because I didn't go into it with any expectations of it being particularly good. But outside of that, you have, customer reviews that are basically useless, for telling you anything about the movie. It's like, oh, it's very good, or it's a movie about dragons. My kids love dragons; they love this movie. I'm like, well, that's nice, but there's lots of movies about dragons, and I'd argue they're much better, like How to Train Your Dragon. So even when it comes to kids' movies involving dragons, I'd argue there's better stuff than this, which pushes the toy line, that's pretty much irrelevant nowadays, as far as I know. Though there was one review that was somewhat interesting in that it was really weird, and that they were complaining about how this movie is racist because they introduced Go Hagar, I believe is how they pronounce his name in the movie, and Odaku, love interest for Kira, and they complain about how they introduced a new minority character to date the minority girl and take her from the white guy, and how racist and unfair that is. So it's interesting as you're like, why are you complaining about this? Is this something really worth caring about? Like, it's obviously setting up a love triangle for, like, a TV series, because they end the movie with, Dev, Kira, and Go Hagar all getting a baby dragon, and indicate, there's potential room for a sequel with, Stan now being an evil shadow dragon, getting into the dragon world and seeing where Stendel's being kept captive. Of course, the movie ends with us being told Stendel's going to be banished to somewhere, but we don't get told where. Like, is he going to get banished to the human world? Is he going to get banished to another dimension? Because that's where the dragons initially came from. So maybe they got access to other dimensions they can throw Stendel into? Don't know, but they leave room for, some sort of sequel follow-up, with a cartoon series or another movie. And you're wondering, why would Dev and Kira need baby dragons? Well, this movie kills off, Orica and Targon, isn't that how they're pronounced? Yeah, I think that's right. I have to admit, I don't really care too much about the dragons, in this movie, because they don't get that much really to do this time around. But yeah, they get killed in the movie by shadow dragons, which means they get reborn as light dragons later on, so they can now kick shadow dragon butt. So they come back for a little bit, beat up the shadow dragons to help the heroes, who have to help them out using their elemental powers, because, Kira's got her fire, Dev's got his wind, and Go Hagar comes in with magic crystals to let them control the earth and metal ores. So they basically, start blasting the shadow dragons with those, while the light dragons are also trying to fight them to take them out. And then after that, they decide to just absolutely destroy the evil Queen Scylla by cooking her alive with lava. Which I have to admit does give the movie more edge than the previous one, considering, on that one, the villain, is just put away in prison forever, presumably in the Dragon World, I believe. And that's about all we get out of that guy, though he did hint at the end of the last movie he was going to come back for a sequel, which didn't happen. So I guess these films have a loving relationship with the idea of we should set up potential sequel bait and then not really follow up on it. So, there you go. As for the rest of the story, it basically is a rehash of the first film, only instead of having, Dev and Kira teaming up to ultimately unite their peoples by revealing the truth, of the evil sorcerer, we now have, Dev, Kira, and Go Hagar teaming up so they can, reveal that Gohagar is the true ruler of the Odaku, and bring peace back to the land, by uniting in friendship and harmony around him. Because we gotta use the power of friendship to battle, the biases that come from, constant warfare. Because, you can easily just overcome that, with just, 3 teens coming together in unity, right? That's more than enough to end a war. So yeah, it basically feels a lot like the previous film, only, they try and add a bit more edge to it with people dying. In some cases, kind of. In the Queen Scylla's case, really dying. They do have a fake-out scene where Dev's father apparently dies, which causes him to go absolutely berserk, but Kira manages to calm him down. That acts as character growth for him, though why he had to have issues with going into a berserker rage in the first place in this film, I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing to tack on, because if you're going to have him be like some sort of berserker-like character, you'd think that would have popped up at least somewhat in the first movie, but then they're like, no, in the second one they're like, oh, no, now he's got these emotional problems where he goes absolutely berserk in combat, so if people attack him, he has to fight until he wins or dies, and there's no in-between for him. Though I have to admit, it's amazing how he just admits his problem, like, straight up when Kira asks about it, it's like, I feel like I'm going down a dark road, and I just can't turn back. And Kira's like, you can't keep going down that road, because you go down it too many times, you're just going to be stuck like that. He's like, I know, but I can't stop myself. But eventually he does manage to stop himself with Kira's help, so, we get set up for some character growth, but it feels like it was tacked into the movie, to give Dev somewhere to go. To have a character growth moment that just was not really needed, based on the first movie. You do you movie. So yeah, it definitely has more teeth on the killing side of things, but in other ways, it feels toothless because it doesn't really kill that many main characters. I mean, what's the point of killing, the dragons off? You're just gonna have them come back, as light dragons, I know it's so they can fight the shadow dragons, but you could have introduced, new light dragons to fight those dragons, because you could have had Orca and Targa be like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to go talk to the light dragons, back in Dragon World or something, give them some quest to achieve that while, the humans try and deal with the shadow dragons, in the human world in the meantime, or something. But no, they didn't go that route. If they had made the dragons more interesting this time around, instead they feel like they're also an afterthought, over the human characters, which kind of sucks. If you gotta call your movie Dragons, at least make the dragons more of a main focus. But if I stop, complaining, I'd say it's just, a mediocre film. It's not great, it's not bad, but if I want a dragon movie, I'd go watch How to Train Your Dragon again. This, you can get put in the shelf of movies I talked about, and then you can just, forget about, forevermore. Till next time, then. See ya.
Together.